Can you see it, Captain?
Yes, I see it now.
Imagine it's summer 1966. The height of Cold War paranoia and space race optimism. Science fiction cinema is dominated by giant radioactive monsters stomping through cities, alien invaders from distant planets, and heroic astronauts blasting off to the moon. But at 20th Century Fox, a radical idea is taking shape. What if the greatest frontier isn't outer space, but inner space? What if, instead of going to the stars, we could journey into the most complex, dangerous, and beautiful landscape ever discovered? The human body itself? The concept seemed impossible. Shrink a submarine and its crew to microscopic size, inject them into a dying scientist's bloodstream, give them exactly 1 hour to navigate through arteries like underwater highways, past towering heart valves, and into the brain itself to save a life from the inside. This wasn't just science fiction. This was science fiction that demanded to be taken seriously. With a $6 million budget, the most ambitious practical effects ever attempted, and sets so elaborate they filled entire sound stages, Fantastic Voyage would prove that sometimes the most incredible journeys happen not among the stars, but within ourselves. This is the story of cinema's most impossible voyage, and how it became one of the most believable adventures ever filmed. The most remarkable thing about Fantastic Voyage wasn't that it succeeded as entertainment. It was that it existed at all, transforming what should have been impossible into cinema's most convincing scientific fantasy. The project began with Otto Clement and Jerome Bixby's simple story treatment about miniaturization. But when screenwriter Harry Kleiner adapted it for the screen, he made a crucial decision: abandon everything except the core concept and rebuild it as Cold War thriller. This wasn't going to be campy B-movie science fiction. This was going to be a serious espionage drama that happened to involve shrinking people. Director Richard Fleischer understood that the film's success depended entirely on believability. If audiences didn't buy the premise in the first 10 minutes, the entire $6 million investment would collapse. So Fleischer treated every fantastic element with documentary-level seriousness, consulting real doctors and researchers to ensure anatomical accuracy. The technical challenges were staggering. How do you create the interior of a human body when no one had ever seen what you were trying to depict? The solution was revolutionary. Build abstract interpretations based on medical knowledge, then film them with such conviction that audiences would accept these landscapes as real. The budget reflected this ambition. Of the $6 million total, $3 million went to sets alone, more than most entire films cost in 1966. The Proteus submarine was constructed as a full 42-foot mock-up with removable sections for filming. Heart and brain sets filled entire Fox sound stages. $1 million was spent just on test footage. But the real genius was the dry for wet filming technique. Instead of actually filming underwater, elaborate studio sets used floating elements and wire work to create the illusion of navigation through liquid environments. This wasn't cheating. This was innovation born from necessity. Fantastic Voyage succeeded because it dared to treat the impossible as inevitable, making audiences believe they were witnessing documentary footage of the greatest journey never taken. The casting of Fantastic Voyage presented a unique challenge: finding actors who could sell the reality of microscopic adventure while navigating sets that often looked more like abstract art installations than recognizable environments. The ensemble needed to ground the fantastic in human emotion and professional competence. Stephen Boyd anchored the film as Charles Grant, and his casting reflected the movie's hybrid nature. Boyd had actually auditioned for James Bond, and that secret agent sensibility proved perfect for a character who needed to be equally comfortable with espionage and impossible science. Grant wasn't a traditional action hero. He was a pragmatic professional, adapting to increasingly surreal circumstances. Boyd's performance never acknowledged the absurdity of the situation. When navigating a pulsing heart chamber or dodging white blood cells, he maintained the focused intensity of a spy completing a dangerous but routine mission. This commitment to realism made audiences forget they were watching actors suspended on wires in elaborate studio sets. Raquel Welch's casting as Cora Peterson became the film's most inspired decision. This was her first major role, launching one of cinema's most iconic careers. But more importantly, her character represented a breakthrough in science fiction gender dynamics. Cora wasn't just eye candy or a damsel in distress, she was the mission's technical specialist, essential to the submarine's operation. The famous form-fitting wetsuit became a cultural phenomenon, but Welch's performance transcended mere physical appeal. She brought genuine intelligence to scenes requiring complex technical dialogue, making Cora feel like a real scientist rather than a beautiful prop. The film notably avoided forcing a romantic subplot between her and Boyd, understanding that mission urgency left no time for conventional movie romance. Donald Pleasance delivered the film's most psychologically complex performance as Dr. Michaels. Playing the mission's saboteur required Pleasance to balance medical expertise with growing desperation and paranoia. His claustrophobic breakdown felt genuinely disturbing, especially when contrasted with the other character's professional calm. Pleasance understood that Michaels wasn't a villain in the traditional sense. He was a man driven to extremes by impossible circumstances. His famous death scene, consumed by attacking white blood cells, became one of science fiction cinema's most memorable moments, precisely because Pleasance played it with horrifying believability rather than campy melodrama. The supporting cast provided essential stability. Edmund O'Brien's military authority grounded the fantastic premise in recognizable bureaucratic reality. Arthur Kennedy's surgeon, Dr. Duvall, brought philosophical weight to the medical mission, treating the human body as both mechanical system and spiritual mystery. William Redfield's Navy pilot navigated impossible biological terrain with the same professional competence he'd bring to any dangerous assignment. Perhaps most importantly, the entire cast committed to the film's central conceit, that they were really inside a human body, facing genuine mortal danger with each passing minute. They never winked at the camera or acknowledged the elaborate artifice surrounding them. Their absolute seriousness made the impossible seem not just plausible, but inevitable. This wasn't just good acting for a science fiction movie. This was ensemble work that transformed fantastic premise into emotional reality, proving that the right performers could make audiences believe in any journey, no matter how microscopic. The reception of Fantastic Voyage tells the fascinating story of a film that succeeded artistically while initially struggling commercially, only to find its true audience through persistence and the passage of time. From its August 1966 premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater, Fantastic Voyage faced the challenge of selling an unprecedented concept to audiences. The film earned $65,000 during its opening week in Los Angeles, respectable but not spectacular numbers that reflected audience uncertainty about what they were actually being asked to see. Critics, however, immediately recognized something special. Richard Schickel of Life magazine praised the film's old familiar music of science fiction in lush new arrangements, noting how seriously screenwriter Harry Kleiner and director Richard Fleischer treated their impossible premise. The consensus among reviewers was that while the concept required a significant suspension of disbelief, the execution was so convincing that audiences willingly made that leap. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences validated this critical appreciation with 5 nominations, including cinematography, film editing, and sound effects. The film won 2 Oscars for Best Visual Effects and Best Art Direction, confirming that Hollywood's technical community recognized genuine innovation when they saw it. But the film's initial box office performance told a more complicated story. Fantastic Voyage needed $9.4 million in rentals to break even and made only $8.88 million theatrically, showing a slight loss that initially disappointed 20th Century Fox executives. The film had cost $6 million to produce, with $3 million spent on sets alone, an enormous gamble for a concept that defied easy categorization. The movie's salvation came through television sales and home video distribution. When broadcast on network television, Fantastic Voyage found the mass audience that had initially eluded it in theaters. Families watching together discovered that the film worked brilliantly as educational entertainment, with parents using it to explain human anatomy to children while enjoying a genuine thriller. Perhaps most remarkably, the medical community embraced the film as a teaching tool. Medical schools began showing clips to illustrate anatomical concepts, particularly in immunology courses where the white blood cell attack sequences provided vivid visualization of immune system function. This educational adoption extended the film's cultural life far beyond typical entertainment cycles. The Harvard Lampoon's declaration that Fantastic Voyage was one of 1966's 10 worst films proved to be a notable dissenting voice. Most critics and audiences recognized that the film had achieved something unprecedented, making the interior of the human body as thrilling and visually spectacular as any exotic location. By the time the film completed its initial theatrical run, earning $514,214 in Los Angeles alone, and ranking as the city's sixth highest earning release of 1966, its reputation was secure. What had initially seemed like a commercial disappointment had become a technical and artistic triumph that would influence science fiction cinema for decades. Fantastic Voyage had proven that audiences were hungry for intelligent science fiction that treated fantastic premises with genuine respect, a lesson that would resonate throughout the genre's future development. Nearly 6 decades later, Fantastic Voyage occupies an extraordinary position in cinema history, a film that somehow became more influential and relevant with each passing year, proving that the most enduring art often emerges from the intersection of imagination and technical innovation. The movie's immediate legacy transformed how Hollywood approached science fiction filmmaking. Before Fantastic Voyage, genre films were largely divided between cheap B-movies and expensive space epics. This film proved that serious science fiction could be made about any concept, no matter how seemingly impossible, if treated with sufficient respect and technical commitment. Stanley Kubrick was reportedly influenced by the film's abstract visual approaches while developing 2001: A Space Odyssey, recognizing how practical effects could create genuinely alien environments. The educational impact proved even more profound. Medical schools began incorporating clips into their curricula almost immediately, using the white blood cell sequences to teach immunology and the cardiovascular scenes to explain circulation. This wasn't just convenient visual aid. It was recognition that the film had achieved unprecedented anatomical accuracy while maintaining dramatic excitement. Generations of doctors and medical students grew up learning human anatomy through Fantastic Voyage's lens. The technical innovations influenced an entire generation of effects artists. The dry-for-wet filming techniques, elaborate miniature work, and abstract set design became standard approaches for depicting impossible environments. When filmmakers needed to create alien worlds or microscopic landscapes, they studied Fantastic Voyage's methods for making the unreal feel tangible. The film spawned an immediate cultural phenomenon. The 1968 animated series by Filmation expanded the concept for television, while Gold Key Comics adapted the story for sequential art. But more significantly, the basic premise, journeying into microscopic worlds, became a recurring theme throughout popular culture. From the Magic School Bus educational series to Rick and Morty's Anatomy Park episode, the template Fantastic Voyage established continues generating new interpretations. Modern science has made the film remarkably prescient. Nanotechnology research, microscopic medical procedures, and advanced imaging techniques have brought real-world medicine closer to the film's fictional concepts. Scientists developing targeted drug delivery systems and microscopic surgical robots often cite Fantastic Voyage as inspiration, demonstrating how science fiction can influence actual scientific development. The film's approach to practical effects gained new appreciation in the CGI era. As digital effects became ubiquitous, viewers began recognizing the unique tactile quality of Fantastic Voyage's handcrafted environments. Film schools started teaching the movie as a masterclass in pre-digital innovation, showing how creativity and craftsmanship could achieve effects that pure technology couldn't replicate. Perhaps most remarkably, Fantastic Voyage anticipated the visualization revolution in modern medicine. MRI scans, endoscopic procedures, and microscopic imaging now routinely show us internal landscapes that closely resemble the film's artistic interpretations. What seemed like pure fantasy in 1966 became educational preparation for medical realities that wouldn't emerge for decades. The numerous failed remake attempts, from James Cameron's long gestating project to various television adaptations, demonstrate both the concept's enduring appeal and the original's irreplaceable achievement. Modern filmmakers struggle to improve upon something that succeeded so completely in its original form. Today, Fantastic Voyage stands as proof that the most influential art comes from treating impossible ideas with absolute seriousness, technical innovation, and genuine respect for audience intelligence. It remains the definitive journey into inner space. So, what do you think? Do Fantastic Voyage's practical effects hold up better than modern CGI? Or was it simply a product of its time that got lucky? Share your thoughts on this microscopic masterpiece in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this exploration of 1960s cinema innovation, subscribe for more deep dives into the films that dared to shrink the impossible down to human size.